Hello everyone, and welcome back to Totally Broken Opinions. Today it's a solo opinion on Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2. Fuck me, that is a long title. But yeah, the Season 2 just wrapped up a couple days ago, and I have some thoughts, because I quite liked the first season, to be honest. But everyone didn't really share that opinion. Some people loved it, some people hated it, some people thought it was fine. I didn't think it was the best season. I had some gripes with it. I think my main problem with it was it was very shiny. Nothing felt like it was really lived in. Everything kind of just felt too clean, too polished. And yeah, I think it's also a bit different when you have an entirely new cast playing characters that you like from the movies and stuff like that. I think I think people struggle with that initial, like, yeah, this is new, this is a different take, I think that's the problem. I think I think it's 8 episodes doesn't really give you enough time with the characters. But yeah, so let's talk about Season 2 and what I thought, what happens, some of the spoilers, some of all of these things that happen. Just general thoughts, what I thought worked, what I thought didn't work. And I don't really know how to start. I think I'm just going to start with the first episode, because I like they basically just have Sauron be a big pile of venom goo, which is just funny to me. I didn't know that. Because I've only ever watched the movies. I've only watched The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings original trilogy. I haven't even seen. I have them on DVD, but I haven't got round to watching them. The Lord of the Rings like extended editions. I've only watched the standard cinema editions. So I think. I don't know. I think it's just in terms of like the backstory on all those characters, I don't really know a lot. I've never read the books, so I think mine is just based on the movie knowledge that I have. And that's surface thin. I really like those movies. I don't like The Hobbit. Really, they were really dull, and I struggled to watch them. But yeah, so call me a fake fan or whatever, but I think I think a lot of people's surface thing is you maybe read it in high school or like college or something, and then a lot of modern day people only know it through the movies. So, but yeah, so I didn't know that Sauron, like all the backstory of him, like being Malraux, like the guy before died. He then tries to usurp the power and control the orcs, and then the orcs kill him. I may be wrong. I don't know what it is in the books, but this is what the show has told me. So, and if that's wrong, it's fine, I guess. Because it was entertaining. I liked watching Venom Goo Boy. I liked that he just basically was a different dude, got stabbed by the crown that was Morgoth. Morgoth? I think it's Morgoth. If I pronounce anything wrong, it's because fantasy names. Difficult. And yeah, so I liked that. I think it's nice to see his backstory of like how he was basically trying. I guess I just like that idea of he's a sweet talker. Like he basically infects people just by talking to them, and you see it throughout the show, and it's really interesting because you basically every time he speaks to someone, you're like, oh no, don't do it, no, don't talk to him, and he just worms his way into people, and it's really fast. I really enjoyed that aspect of. I like seeing the side of him basically just being a manipulator behind the scenes, but also trying to be like act like with humanity to like compel people to do stuff, or like even if it's not real, it's just interesting. It's basically like watching a psychopath interact with people, and you can tell there's something off, but they're charismatic, so they kind of just they scoot by. It's why most like. So, American Psycho. A lot of people are like, yeah, Christian Bale, really good in it, like, because he's playing a psychopath and he's really charismatic. But, like, you don't want a psychopath because they have no emotion. They're emulating it. They can play on your emotions by just emulating emotions around you. So, I like that aspect. And yeah, so I also didn't know that Adar was basically, like, the one to kill him, or, like, get the first stab in and then everyone else kills him. So I like that aspect to give that character a bit more backstory. New actor, I think. I don't know why. I can't remember if it was they just didn't want to be in it, or they just had some sort of cancel thing where they were bad. I haven't looked into it. But yeah. So I liked all of that. I like that he can basically just walk into what Ergion, like he just walks into there and basically he knows that Celebrimbor is gonna just come. He's just like, no, I'll stay. He'll come to me, and it's just like because he knows people have humanity, so he can play on that, or like elven manatee, or whatever the fuck it is. And also he knows that he's wormed his way in there, and Celebrimbor wants to make the rings. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the relationship between them, because it's a lot of them just standing in a room just talking, but it's so fascinating to hear like the conversations and how like Sauron or whatever his disguise is basically worm in the little seeds of like no, this is we're doing this together. I've now become an elf boy. Sorry, I'm eating. And how he just manages to like seed those like seeds of doubt, and because he's thinking 100 steps ahead of everyone, he's like seeding the doubt in his like assistants and everything, like Celebrimbor's assistant, his I don't know if that's his wife or something. I feel like it's his assistant. The relationship was like kind of unclear. I feel like that she's too young for him, but then elves are like 2,000 fucking years old, so who knows what the age of consent is for elves. But yeah, so I feel like their relationship was probably assistant and whatnot. But he like seeds the doubt in her, because as the progression goes on, it just seeds are planted, and he's like thinking ahead because he's trying to get all of these cards on the table to get it, and he is expecting Celebrimbor to basically do it, but Celebrimbor is doubting it and kind of pushing against it and not doing it as fast as he wants, or not doing it the way he wants, and he can't just straight up because he doesn't want to ruin his basically, because he knows he has to play it subtle but not push for stuff too fast, otherwise the seeds of doubt get like ripped out basically. And so when like he traps him in that mind thing, and he basically just Celebrimbor notices something's not right, so he basically marks the candle, sees the mouse run around like multiple times, and it basically resets. I was like, oh, that's but yeah, their whole thing was really interesting. I really like the corruption of like Celebrimbor, but then Celebrimbor basically essentially, I don't know if it's a curse for Sauron or if it's just a statement, but like because Celebrimbor because the rings of power are just nonsense. They're basically just, we put mithril in it, but the intention of the person is what creates the there's no explanation for why any of it works. Like if Celebrimbor made the perfect rings, would it have been without Sauron if Sauron didn't do it? Like, would they have still saved that tree if they didn't create the rings? Because I guess the rings were created with Halbrand, who was Sauron, so could he still put his influence in it? But is that why they work? Or is it that Sauron can basically control them now because he put his influence on it? If he didn't have his influence in it, would they still have worked, is what I want to or was it because he put his influence in it that he can then manipulate the world to do it? Because that's Elrond's basic problem with it, isn't it? Because he's basically like, this is all part of Sauron's plan, and if you keep using these rings, then you're going to basically fall into his trap. So if we don't use the ring, he has no control over it. And then at the end, he uses the ring to save Galadriel, basically kind of symbolizing that, no, these rings can work outside of his control because of the purity of like who uses them, which I don't know if that's going to be explored in season 3, whether or not because the rings do eventually get corrupted and people do basically go the wrong way. And like when the dwarf king gets the ring, he gets greed rather than what originally was touted for like Sauron to, maybe because Sauron wants the mithril, but then because of the greed aspect, the king is refusing to give them the mithril. So it's like, okay, yeah. So it doesn't always work out how he wants it. And I guess that's because like Celebrimbor doesn't let him put the stuff in, or something doesn't, like, Yeah, the little things, like, because Celebrimbor lets Sauron put the mithril into the fire, or for the dwarf rings, and so that's the touch of, like, the influence of Sauron and stuff like that, and his intention. But I guess because he's being watched, maybe he does it wrong, and it gives a little off section, and the dwarves don't react how he thinks they're gonna react. But yeah, I think it's just interesting, how the rings and everything are working in. Let's go on something that I wasn't super fussed about this season. It's mainly the Gandalf, I guess is what they wanted, because they basically have, like, the little side plot of them going in to find his staff. And I feel like they don't do a lot with it. And I guess it's because the limitations of 8 episodes, and you're trying to get this massive battle at Aegon, whatever the fuck it's called. The big city. You're trying to get that fight, like, and those characters a lot of screen time. Like, a lot of the other characters get, like, backseated, like the elf and the son. The son gets a lot more play, like the son of the captain. Like, you do get bits of piece, like some substantial bits and pieces for those characters. But, like, a lot of it is just like, we go somewhere, we come back. I like a girl, I don't like, she likes me, and then we can't be together, and all the stuff, like, all of those things. The stupid son of that lady who died, who was, like, the village leader, or, like, healer, he's still around, and he's, I guess, being set up to do something in season 3, but a lot of it is him just being a whiny, crying little boy, which is fine, but it's just kind of like, But yeah, a lot of the characters, other than, like, Galadriel, Celebrimbor, Sauron, and Elrond, don't get much play in this, which I don't mind, because I'm like, I don't really care about Gandalf going on his little quest to meet Tom Bombadil, and find a staff, and Nori and whatnot. They're finding little village people, who then get attacked by some guys who then just die. And you're like, oh, okay. These big, cool, masked dudes who are meant to be, like, really tough just then end up dying. Also, the lady who was chasing Gandalf last time, who died, comes back, but does nothing after that. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. But yeah, they don't say it, but I don't think it is, right? Because Gandalf and the Dark Wizard, or whatever it is, isn't Saruman, is it? Because it would be weird for Gandalf because in the movies, at least from my understanding, is they were friends, and then Saruman turned to the rings of, like, the Sauron. Two different names that sound similar. I don't know why he turns. I think it's just power, or, like, security or something like that. I can't remember the reason. But yeah, that would be weird if the wizard in the desert was Saruman. But I feel like it's not Saruman. So if people can confirm that for me, that would be great, if it is or isn't. I don't think it is, but it feels like it's meant to be as a reveal. But I feel like it's a weird, because he kind of tries to be friendly with Gandalf. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so also the reveal of Gandalf's name is dumb. It's like, they call him Grand Elf or something, and it's like, my name's gonna be Gandalf. And I'm like, they did a solo. Where it's just like, Han, a solo, because you're alone and no one's with you. Like, okay. So they don't know what an elf is, so because he's tall, they'll call him an elf, and he's called Grand Elf because he's old. And then he goes, I'm going to be called Gandalf, I guess. So it's like, you really need to do that. What other subplots there? There's the dwarfs. So he gets, I don't remember the dwarf boy's name, so I'm just going to call him Dwarf Boy. So Dwarf Boy, or Dwarf Prince, as we should probably call him, and his missus are now living squalorly because he in the last season he pissed off his dad, or this season, I can't remember if it was the first in the episode, but he basically dishonored his dad, basically, or yelled at his dad, and his dad didn't like it, and so he's now living in, like, he's been cut off from the princeliness, and so his wife wants luxury still. So he buys her an orb, basically, and then she drops that orb, and then it rolls down into the thing, and then they find, oh no, there's a big monster that's calling out, and don't dig that way. And so that's the conflict, is like the dad's being, they're stubborn because they're dwarves, which, yep. And so they're clashing at each other, and then the rings come into it because the Sauron is basically manipulating it to say, oh, Elrond basically sent us to give you these rings to solve your problem. And because it's Elrond's name, the guy trusts it, but he's suspicious. And then the dad's like, yes, I'll take you up on that. And then because the wife's like, oh, if you can, because she's failed a bunch of times to find like the light source and whatnot, because the lights basically went out, and like they're struggling basically because they can't feel the mountain, because I guess Sauron's influence is dampening what they can see. And so when he comes in with the rings and the rings clear it up, you can see all this stuff, because they would have been able to do that anyway. But because of Sauron, I guess they couldn't. But yeah. So their situation I liked. I found it a bit iffy on what I didn't love about it, because I'm just like, okay, can we move it along a bit? But yeah, so yeah, I think that worked. I think the Balrog was cool. I always like a Balrog. The Balrog looked sick in that fight with the king. I wish there was more, because it kind of just felt like, oh, I crashed through the wall, and then basically the Balrog waits a beat and then comes, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have an epic fight. But like, what? It was one tiny little hole in all of that mithril. I thought the Balrog was meant to just wipe out that entire city. And then also, how long does it take for an army to get from where they were to where the elves were? Because it's like a solid 20 minutes or so in terms of, oh, he's not coming. Oh, he's coming again, I guess. Because basically, at the battle, Elrond's asked the dwarves to help fight, but then the dad goes mad and keeps trying to fucking dig, which leads to the Balrog. So, Dwarf Prince basically stops the army from going to help, because if the Balrog gets loose, then, or whatever creature or whatever it was, it's the Balrog, but whatever thing gets loose, there might not be a Khazad-dûm left when he returns. And then it's like, oh, in the span of 5 minutes, I guess it's basically just like, oh no, he said he's not coming. JK, he's turning up now. Like, oh, okay. So, yeah. Let's talk about the elf boy that I don't know the name of, but he's the one that was in looking after that village in the first season. And so, that guy, I like. He's cool. He's kind of like just the stoic, archer who doesn't really fuck up, but fucks up a lot. Also, he's got his beef with Adar. That's the one thing I didn't like, is their whole beef doesn't really amount to anything. It's basically just, he gets stabbed on the battlefield, and you're like, oh, he's dead. And then in the next episode, he's alive. Perfectly functioning, no problem whatsoever. And you're like, oh, okay. I was like, I would have been more happy if he was just dead, and it was just a completely unsatisfying, like, revenge thing, where, like, revenge led to nothing but death, because he basically goes in, I'm going to avenge these people, I'm consumed by the vengeance of trying to, like, avenge this woman that I clearly liked, but never did anything with. I'm an elf, and she's a human, and it would have been wrong, or whatever he keeps telling himself, because I guess it's like a dog. I guess it's like Omni-Man in Invincible, where it's like he kind of sees them as a pet because of how long he's lived versus how long she's lived. I guess. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what they're fucking thinking, but that's probably like the logic behind it is like, I like you, but you will not live as long as I do. But yeah, so him going onto the battlefield, basically trying to kill Adar, and it's just like he just gets stabbed. Like he gets like one or two like hits like against the sword, and then it's just like, nope, stabbed. And you're like, okay, that was vengeance consuming him, and he died, and it was pointless, and he could have just been there to look after the kid, or help look after the kid and what. But then in the next episode, he's back up and running, and you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, that was my main problem with that. Let's talk about Galadriel. I really like that character. I think she's very flawed, which I like. I like a flawed character who's just trying to do the right thing and knows that they're like, she knows she could be manipulated, but she's so headstrong in terms of what she thinks is right that she's just gonna push through it, I guess. Even though she knows it could probably cause problems, she knows that she knows that, and she knows that she knows Sauron, and Sauron knows her, so she's just like, no, I'm going to keep pushing forward with what I believe. But then she does slowly learn that Elrond is right. In some cases, and Elrond learns from her, and they both kind of come to the same consensus, and they both grow as characters. It's of like, no, you can do some things, I can do some things, but we know... Because she's jealous that... Because basically, I like that she gets a bit jealous that Elrond basically takes command, even though he's not a warrior. He's basically the scholar of the elves. But he knows how to fight, because all elves, everyone knows how to fight. You're like, yeah, you need to be trained and all. But yeah, so I feel like I like their dynamic where they clash a bit, because it's like, no, you know the rings are bad because of Sauron's influence, but you're like, no, I can use them to get better at things and all of that. And she's like, I'm not going to get manipulated by them. And he's like, no, you are, because you're already influenced. And like the king's like, yeah, you can't go on your own because you are influenced by him. And as soon as he gets his hands on you, you are influenced. You are easily susceptible to his influence, which is why in like the movies, it's like they can't really do anything because these characters have already interacted with. Like Frodo has never interacted with Sauron, so he has no influence over, apart from the ring at least, anything that he does. But it's like that's why these characters further down the line can do these things, because they haven't interacted with him directly, whereas like Elrond and Galadriel and have. I guess Elrond hasn't interacted. I guess he knows Hellbrand. It was Sauron, but he never interacted. I can't remember. I don't remember the first season very well. But yeah, I think that ultimately worked. I think her persistence, the goings, just trying to do things, really interesting. Let's talk the weird the infighting of the place, but it's that weird fancy city that's outside of Middle Earth, I guess. Okay, this is my thing with the maps. I guess I don't know what is and isn't Lord of the Rings proper mappage, because I just thought Middle Earth was Middle Earth, and then the place where the elves go is a different place. But I guess this place is outside of Middle Earth, or Middle Earth is just a location, because this other place is just like, oh yeah, we'll come over, and then whatnot. And you're like, oh, whatever. So I guess I don't know the mappaging or like the world very well, because I thought Mount Doom was in Middle Earth, but I'm guessing maybe Middle Earth and Mount Doom are places on a map, different locations. I guess Middle Earth is just a location on the map, and then this is another location. But yeah, that city and the queen and the weird scummy guy who's trying to get the power, and the dumbass daughter of that captain guy who basically is just like, no, Dad. You know the person that you've pledged allegiance to for many, many years and has not really done anything wrong, because she wasn't in control. She was basically letting her dad, like looking after her dad and doing all of that, and she basically has an orb that the dad was using. No, I'm going to throw all of that away and support this cunt with a dickhead son, because my brother died, but he's not dead, but I don't know that. And then I'm basically going to cause an uprising. I hated that character because she's so dumb. She just associates with the dumbest people. And she's like, oh yeah, you're my closest friend. And because the guard captain's like second, I guess, I don't know if he was second in command, but the guy that was friends with the brother, he basically is like loyal to the queen and whatnot. So he clashes with these scummy like scholarly types who are trying to usurp the queen, basically. And she's like, oh dude, I like you. You're my best friend and whatnot. And please don't like hate me for doing these things. And he's like, no, you chose your side. You chose these cunts. and you didn't choose your family or your friends. You chose to side with the people who could get you power, essentially. And then he dies, and she doesn't seem to care because I guess they told her that the dad got him killed, even though the dad didn't do anything. The dad basically just stood there. And yeah, I know that they lied and whatnot, but the dad didn't even seem to try and tell her the truth. And I guess the dad was just like, no, you're a dickhead, douchebag daughter, because you basically chose your side without anyone telling you anything differently. You just believed them. And so I'm annoyed that she still has any, like, play. It was just dumb. They were just annoyed. Like, she was just annoyed. It was good on her actress's part for playing the role very convincingly, because I feel like it's just, like, very hard. Like, it's very difficult to do that smarmy, like, ignorant, like, dumbassery, I guess. Act it very well. So I think she did a good job at what her character should have done. But yeah. What else? What else happened? I guess I could talk about Tom Bombadil. I don't care. He seemed alright. I don't know what his part in the story is. I know that there was singing story. Like, the original Lord of the Rings has singing in it because that's The Hobbit as well. They do have a little bit of a sing. I feel like him as a guiding teacher was okay. He just does that, like, he doesn't say much. He just kind of talks in riddles, and you're meant to figure it out, and you're not meant to do the thing that you're actually meant to do. It's different from the thing that you're supposed to do, I guess. That was fine. But yeah, I liked the big sea monster that was in that city. I like when she just goes for a swim and basically gets the big sea monster goes, oh yeah, no, we're good. And then that's what the main problem I had with that storyline is. It's like, oh, she's queen. Oh, there's a guy and the eagle came over, and like, I don't even know, how the fuck do you know what the eagle's meant to do? It's an eagle. Like, it turned up because she was there, and then it's like, he's standing there, and it starts flapping its wings, and everyone's like, oh, this dude, yeah. And then they usurp her, and then she's basically in jail. And then the guard captain basically wants to get her out, so he's gonna take a trial, because he basically does that whole, he doesn't do it, but the whole insurrection thing of basically in that temple where everyone gets kicked out, basically because the dudes want to create something else. And then the guard captain is meant to take that test for the underwater creature that was meant to determine whether or not you're guilty or not. And so she takes his place, and then she's found not guilty. And then the guy basically goes, oh yeah, anyone working with this Saruman, any of the original people was a heretic or something. And then everyone just gets arrested, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? Are they two different, like, captain of the guards or, like, loyal? Like, what is happening in terms of, like, the structure of their army or, like, royal guard or whatever? Like, it seems so weird that they don't do anything to the queen, but they're loyal to the guard or the guy who's not king. But then the other ones are basically disbanded, but they don't put up any fight. It seems weird. I guess that's why they downfall in some term or whatever, as that big prophet foretold. But yeah, I think the big fight at the end is good. I like that they basically destroy a mountain to dam it so that they can then run across. I think the action was good. I think the overall final battle between Galadriel and Sauron was good. I like the ongoing manipulation for... I think that she takes the rings and then gets captured and then gives the rings. I like that moment where Adar is basically like, yeah, we'll team up together, and for all of orc kind and elf kind, I'll go move into Mount Doom and whatnot and live peacefully. We won't attack elves anymore. We will have somewhere to call our own, and I'm like the daddy of all of these orcs. And then he gets stabbed by orcs because they went to go capture Sauron. And then Sauron's basically like, oh, what's your name and how are you? And then they basically manipulates them. I like that. And then he basically dies, and it's like the one hope of killing Sauron at this point is gone because they aren't teamed up. And then he basically just takes the crown, and then they have a little fight. She gets stabbed, and then the ring heals her with the 2 rings, basically. Where's the 3rd ring? Who had the 3rd ring? Because the elves had the free ring. Because it was free for the elves. Who got the 3rd one? Was it Celebrimbor? Because the king's got one, she's got one. But then I don't remember who gets the 3rd one. I'm guessing Celebrimbor has it, right? But then he died. So I'm guessing Sauron's got it? I wonder what happened to that third ring, because I don't remember who was meant to get it. Also, if I can't remember because it's been a while since. Is the king the one that then goes crazy, or is it a different king? Because I know that there's a guy at the beginning of the Lord of the Rings movie where they're going to throw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom, and then he goes mad, and Elrond's like, no, and then the king just walks away, and nothing happens, and then the ring gets lost, and all other events of Lord of the Rings happen. So is that the same king? Because the king seems pretty chill for the moment. So I'm wondering if that's going to be the corruption of the king in the next couple. But I don't know if it was a king or just a guy, because I feel like it was a human, right? It might not have been an elf. It might have been a human, and then Elrond was there as an elf, because I feel like it was the king of the humans. I don't know. It's been a while. I need to watch Lord of the Rings. It's such a good. But yeah, other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think there's some bits and pieces that I was like, you could have had less of, or you could have extended it. I think the problem is it's just 8 episodes isn't enough. I don't like the 8-episode format when it's kind of like this large epic story. I feel like some of the side stories don't have any time to breathe, so they're kind of just like short interspersed moments that don't really amount to anything interesting. Like this was like, it would have been more epic or interesting for like a massive long journey with Gandalf and like all of these training things. I wouldn't say training, but like him having to just see people and like help people and do all of these things as a way of like just being on the right path. But then you kind of get nothing. Like, okay, he finds a stick. And you're like, okay, that I kind of get that. I immediately, as soon as that little Nari or whatever her name is, picked up that stick when she was just sitting on a bench and just chucked it on the ground, it was just like, well, yeah, that's his wizard stick, isn't it? But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I think I overall, I really enjoyed it. I think I liked it more than season 1 because I think it had a better pace to it. Some of it wasn't great, but I think overall, I liked the storyline. I think the main crux of this season was the Celebrimbor, Sauron, Galadriel sort of stuff with Elrond, and then that sort of stuff at the forefront, and then everything else kind of took a backseat. And I think ultimately, yeah, I think it was really good. I know people got really upset for some reason that orcs had kids, and it's like, oh, you're trying to humanize them. It's like 2 seconds in the fucking show. It does not matter, and you never see that person, that orc again. That orc probably died 2 minutes after off screen because Sauron basically probably just decapitated them when he was escaping. But yeah, or like not escaping. But yeah, I don't get the controversy. It's just like people want to hate it. It's not like they actually watch it and it's like, I guess I don't like this because it was like. But it's just like, no, there's a person of color or there's a moment that I don't like, and I'm just going to rip this show to shreds. I'm like, do we need this? Just judge it based on what it actually is, not what you think the internet tells you it is. It's so dumb. But yeah, ultimately, I think I enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to season 3. I'm enjoying what they're giving. So let me know what you thought.